Our next guest is not only one of the greatest analysts in the fight industry, but is now officially returning to action as he takes on Diego Sanchez in Manchester, England on July 2nd in an exhibition boxing match. He also knows great work on BT Sports and Full Reptile as he joins us to help preview UFC 274. The one and only Dan Hardy, man. Welcome back to the show. How are you? And how does it feel to finally have the big return locked in and set? As we're about to break.
It feels good. It feels even better to have good news for you guys, because I know how desperate you've been to hear some good news from me about fighting.
I know. Are we talking new news, or just the fact that the fight is actually happening?
No, well, the fact that this is happening. You know, this is. I'm hoping that the start of a handful of fights of different rule sets against really interesting opponents. That's my plan anyway. And I think this one will be a fun one. You know, it's an exhibition match. We're wearing 16-ounce gloves, but you know we're going to have a banger. You know exactly what you're going to get from Diego, and you know Ricky Hatton's on the card taking on Barrera. I'm very excited for that as well.
Is it the return, the payday, the rules and gloves, the fact that it's outside the UFC? You know, Diego himself. Be honest. What is the best thing about this fight for you?
It's difficult to break it down, to be honest. I'm excited that it's boxing. I'm excited that it's in a boxing ring. It's a long time since I've fought in a ring. The last time I fought in a ring, in fact, Diego Sanchez was there in the crowd. It was in Holland.
Oh wow,
that's a weird coincidence. The whole thing's going to be a lot of fun. The event's going to be fun. The guys running it are having a good time. With there's a couple of other matchups that are coming into the card, which I know the MMA community are going to be really excited about. I can't say anything, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm just excited to be a part of this event. You know, I have a direction for training now, it's refreshing, especially as an old 40-year-old man, which I will be in a couple of weeks. You know, to have a direction for training is really good. I got home last night. I drove 6 hours back from Scotland last night and walked into the gym at home, and immediately I was like, right, it's time to train. And you know, having that motivation back's really good. And you know, Diego as well. That's an adrenaline rush for me. I've always been a fan of him and his fighting style, and I've always felt that we were going to fight at some point in the future. I didn't expect it to be boxing though.
What a 40th birthday present! A delayed one, but a great one for one Dan Hardy. And you know, it's interesting with Diego because you've been on here before, and you know, you've spoken about how there was a little bit of not bad blood, but a little bit of back and forth here and there. How does it actually feel to have him as your official opponent? And in terms of the challenge that he brings to this boxing match, how do you see that as well?
You know, it's a very unique challenge because he can be a different fighter from one fight to the next. And I've never seen him just working boxing. You know, I know he's been working very hard on his hands, but of course, you know, his game is MMA. He's a wrestler, grappler. He became well known for his striking because it was reckless and wild. So that's the challenge with Diego. You don't know what angles the punches are coming from. The volume is probably going to be unreasonable as well. You know, this is 2-minute rounds. So we're going to be able to go pretty hard paced for 2 minutes, and then have a minute off. You know, the thing is, the stage is set for this to be a real war, and I expect exactly that from Diego. We don't have to cut too much weight. You know, we've agreed to fight at 185, so you know we're both going to effectively be able to walk onto the scales, which is nice. So that further puts us in condition to be able to, you know, to have a bit of a mental fight.
We'll do. We want to do like a proper deep dive with you as we get closer to the fight, because obviously, you know, you've been doing interviews recently. We want to let it breathe a little bit and then get people excited closer to the fight. But I do want to ask, you know, what is the biggest thing that you want to prove to yourself in this fight?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to prove anything to myself. I think. I quite like the fact that every time we do an interview and the video goes up, and you know, we always have a conversation about me coming back to fight, and there's always a bunch of shit talkers in the comments going, "Oh, he's never going to fight. He's never going to fight." So I kind of like giving those guys the middle finger, you know, because they all deserve one. I'm excited that it's boxing. You know, I've never done boxing. I've done all the other combat sports. I've tried everything. I used to tour the competitions around the UK and enter whatever was either punching or grappling. And I've never done boxing, and I've trained boxing a long time. I must watch at least a boxing match a day. It's almost like my break. Like I watch MMA for work, and then I watch boxing at break time. So I love it. And this was going to give me an opportunity to try some things which I've been wanting to try for a while. And the process is fun as well, right? The process of preparing for something, to have a crescendo, to get yourself in condition. I'm not in great shape right now, but I'm not in bad condition. I've been training pretty hard, and I feel confident that I'm going to be able to smash 8-2s of boxing. But I also want to put myself in a position where I feel unstoppable, because it's been a while since I've felt that, and it's difficult to get yourself into that condition unless there's someone hunting for your head.
Last one for me on this one, but obviously a great opportunity to get back in there, get back into competition, get the body moving, and get out in front of the crowd and get back into action. I wonder, are you going to be looking at this performance and then deciding what's next for you after this? Or would you potentially consider staying in boxing? Would you be looking to still go back to MMA? Would you be looking at different weight classes? What's your mindset on what's next after this Diego Sanchez fight?
I think there are some interesting options in boxing, and boxing, fortunately, is something that even if I went and did something else, I could always return to it. But I don't know. I've got quite a few options and ideas. I think another boxing match would be likely, and I think that if I did another boxing match, it would be 10-ounce gloves under pro rules. I'd like to do 3-minute rounds because I like to have a game plan to work to and for it to pan out over a longer period. And doing longer rounds and more rounds is interesting for me as a new challenge. I think there are different opponents out there, better boxers, and I'd like to fight some better boxers. But I would also like to fight some good Muay Thai fighters and some good kickboxers. And I don't know whether you've got this same saying over there, but we say that your eyes are bigger than your belly. Sometimes you put too much on your plate. I do feel a little bit like that, and we'll see how this fight goes. But I'm not getting in shape for one fight. I'm not doing that. It's too much work. I'm getting in shape to stay in shape for at least a couple of years, and I want to see what options I've got. MMA would be nice. Muay Thai would be nice. Muay Thai with small gloves would be very nice. I'd even be tempted to do some grappling competitions. Like that might be a good second option for Diego and I. We could compete on Polaris or something and do a professional grappling match next.
That's cool. I like that actually, because obviously, with boxing, I think most people see you as the heavy favorite. This is more your realm. And then, Diego Sanchez made his name, with his, well, I guess it was more like wrestling in ground and pound, but nevertheless, you and Diego grappling, that'd be a fascinating one. Well, I don't really have a very good segue, so I'm just going to cut to you. Just going to cut. But I'm trying to save. I've got a lot of good questions. There's so much I want to ask you, Dan, I'll be honest. But I'm like, you know what? Save it for a month, and then we'll really, really deep dive. We'll go balls deep. But of course, people that clicked on this are like, where the fuck's the UFC 274 preview show? So we will get into it. Obviously, Oliveira versus Gaethje, fascinating one, because, a couple of years ago, you would expect Gaethje to just, run through Oliveira, given where both of them were at their career. But now, Oliveira's striking has evolved so much and so technically efficient. And then you've got Gaethje, who's, really transformed his defense ever since working with Trevor Whitman. At this point, who would you say is actually the better striker? I feel like Gaethje's striking is a little bit misleading, because I think his application is better than his technique. and it's a strange dilemma that I've been kicking around in my head for a week, I'll be honest. I would like a conversation with Trevor Whitman about it, because he's a very conscious individual and he's a very good coach. So there must be a reason why he's not fixed just to engage his hooks, because he throws them in a very strange way. Like you watch him on his documentary, the Road to Gold, or I think it's called, and like he hits. It's just kind of odd the way that he punches, but it's so effective. And I wonder, because I've worked with a couple of fighters in the past, and I realized that if I changed, there was a particular fighter, and she had a really, really powerful right hand.
but she used to bring her elbow up like she was drawing a bow and arrow, and it was bad technique, but it worked really well for her, and I really didn't want to change it. And I wonder whether it's that situation, because certainly what Trevor Whitman has done is he's upgraded the way that he does things. And this is evident in the way that he drops Michael Chandler. So he hits him with a left hook, and then he feints the left hook and comes with the uppercut and drops him with it. And you can see how he's playing those games with him. You know, he's opening up targets for himself. He is a smart individual. I mean, it's predominantly gravitated around his right hand and his low kick. That is really where his game is. But, you know, against Tony Ferguson, he was chopping the low kick and then dragging the left hook back. I think there's a lot of good options for Oliveira. I think he's got a very diverse striking skill set. But I mean, if you put them on the scales of effectiveness, I would say they're fairly equal. They're just, their application is different. Their approach is different. Like Justin Gaethje is more blunt force trauma, and Charles Oliveira is a bit more, is a bit more guerrilla warfare. Like pick you off as you come in until you start to break, and then we'll go after you. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it.
Obviously, Oliveira, a ton of heart. We've seen it in his fights, but Gaethje brings a lot of power in there. And Oliveira doesn't always have a ton of head movement. How do you think he intelligently sort of avoids getting clipped by one of Gaethje's bombs in this fight?
Well, that is a concern because, for as well as he can take a shot, Charles Oliveira, we know he can take a shot because we've seen it. And I don't know whether you want to be taking too many shots from Justin Gaethje, who seems to be able to hurt almost everyone that he touches. Also, because Oliveira stands quite upright, it does kind of put his head and his shoulders quite available for that big clubbing overhand right that Gaethje's got. The one that he knocked out Barbosa with when he stepped through, the one that he put James Vick down with, another tall individual that's he had to reach for. Like that's a concern for Charles Oliveira for sure. I could quite easily see Justin Gaethje catching him clean the first round and dropping him and then finishing him, TKO finish on the ground. The hitability of Oliveira is something that if I was his coach, I would be very, very focused on during this training camp, because if he decides to fight at long range, he's got really good front kicks to the midsection, which is, really good at breaking his opponent's posture, bringing their head down for that guillotine finish that he's known for. And he's got good uppercuts, really good uppercuts and good knees. Anything coming up the center line against Justin Gaethje is going to be really valuable. Putting himself at closer range so he can kind of close those overhand weapons down might be another option for him as well. But definitely, he's going to take some shots in this first round, and he might not be able to see the bell.
Well, that's the thing. Like, is it just me, or does the 5 rounds kind of benefit Justin Gaethje? Just because, like, Charles Oliveira is so good. Like, his strikes are fantastic, but Justin Gaethje has so many more opportunities to land that shot. I almost feel like, Charles could be piecing him up strategically for the first 3 rounds, and then Justin lands something in the 4th round. Am I crazy, or does the extra rounds actually favor Justin?
It's hard to say who they favor, to be honest, because the thing with Justin Gaethje is he starts out kind of reckless, and he gets more reckless as the fight goes on, and he does get sloppy sometimes. If you think to the fights that he lost against Alvarez and Poirier, he was in the trenches. He dragged his opponent into the trenches. And there is a trap with Gaethje, because you can hit him, you want to keep hitting him. And, people fall into this trap where they just keep unloading, and they look at Chandler. Like, he did everything to put Gaethje out of there in the first round. And when he walked back to his stool, his leg was battered and he was exhausted. It's a trap that you can fall into, and Charles Oliveira can definitely fall into that trap. But in the process, Justin Gaethje does get tired. He does get sloppy, and that's where the technical advantage of Charles Oliveira, I think, shines through in the later rounds. I don't think his conditioning is going to be problematic, and I think that because he's more technical, it gives him more options in the later rounds. I don't really think it favors either of them. I just think it changes the fight. I think if this was a 3-round fight, it would be a faster pace from Justin Gaethje, and I think he'd probably be more aggressive. Because it's a 5-round fight, I think he might be a bit more cautious in that first round, because getting close to Charles Oliveira might be difficult if he decides to fight long.
And this is where the grappling comes in, because it's definitely could be a huge factor in this fight, especially if one of the guys is spent, especially if Gaethje is a little bit tired and makes some mistakes. I mean, we've seen him give up his back, when he's gotten up to his feet before. And we know that, even though Gaethje is good, at sprawling and brawling and the wrestling, with Charles, he can submit you anywhere. Like, he can submit you even standing. How much of a factor do you think grappling is going to be in this fight? And how much of an advantage do you think it could be to Charles Oliveira as the fight goes on?
I think if there are any grappling exchanges, they'll be initiated by Oliveira, and I don't think he'll be bothered if he shoots a takedown and doesn't get it. Mm-hmm. He didn't take Poirier down when he jumped on his back and choked him out. Against Will Brooks, he picked him up and slammed him, but then as Will Brooks was scrambling back to his feet, he climbed up onto his back and finished it pretty much the same way as he did against Poirier. That long, slow squeeze where he's across the chin and then he just slides underneath and gets to the neck. I think the scrambling of Justin Gaethje is going to be really useful, because he's very good at keeping people off his back. But as you said, when he's getting back up to his feet, the wrestling tendency is to belly down, is to put their hands down, because you get pinned on your shoulders in wrestling. I feel like if Charles Oliveira initiates a takedown, he may not get it, but he may get a submission position immediately out off the back of it. And that's the thing that Gaethje's got to be really cautious of. He's got to be close, but not too close. And if he's at any point grabbed by Charles Oliveira, his priority has to be getting away instead of trying to, dirty box him in the clinch.
I'm struggling regarding this one, but I'm curious, who are you leaning towards? I feel like this is a pretty even one. Who are you leaning towards? And do you also, to double up on that, how much do you think the outcome affects who Conor McGregor returns against? Are you sold on this Usman fight being a thing, or do you think depending on whether Oliveira or Gaethje wins, this might set up the next fight regarding Conor?
Well, I mean, to answer your first question, I'm leaning slightly towards Oliveira because he's got lots of technical advantages. I feel like he is going to be able to win the striking as long as he doesn't get hit with that big shot and take too many low kicks. But he stands high on his rear legs, so that the lead leg's less vulnerable. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, does McGregor want to fight Charles Oliveira? Is it a fight that's gonna really, really sell? Is it worth taking that fight, knowing full well that most likely he's going to get beaten up and submitted? I think there are lots of really interesting fights for Conor McGregor, but unless something drastic has changed in the last few months while he's been healing his leg, I don't think he has the skill set to beat Charles Oliveira. I do think he has the skill set to beat Gaethje, and I think that's a very marketable fight, especially because they speak the same language, they can back and forth. Gaethje's a funny dude; he's not going to back down. But he's going to bring brutality to the octagon, and Conor McGregor brings sharpshooting to the octagon, but he does get tired and he does get worn down. And for as long as Justin Gaethje can take those shots, Conor will be getting tired. I think if Gaethje wins, you might see Conor McGregor in there. I think if Oliveira wins, I don't think we'll see him anywhere near that lightweight belt. Whether he wants to fight for it or not, I don't think he'll get it. And I don't really think Usman's a better fight for him either, to be honest. I think he'd be better. I don't know. I mean, we've got Tony Ferguson against Chandler on here. I've just recorded the War Room for that. That is a banger. If I was Conor McGregor, I'd be looking at something like that, because ultimately it doesn't matter who Conor McGregor's fighting. He could fight Artem Lobov in Dublin and he would sell the arena out. Yeah. Let's be honest. It doesn't really matter who he's fighting. What's most important right now is that Conor maintains his brand. And stepping in there against Charles Oliveira, for as cool as it would be for him to beat him and win the belt, it's a shot in the dark, and it could just push his brand in the combat sports world off a cliff, and then he's locked up in a contract that he can't get out of, and Jake Paul's shit talking him, and it's just not a scenario I think he wants to be in. I think he's smarter than that.
And I feel like if he did fight Kamaru Usman, maybe there's a little bit more excuses there in terms of, look, it's a different weight class. He's always been more of a lightweight. With Oliveira, it's a little bit tougher. Of course, though, Oliveira is a very tough fight. But you brought up the banger, so I've got to go into it, man. Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. hardcore fight fan's dream. And fortunately for Tony, it's unlikely that it's going to get held down. He's going to get held down for 3 rounds. Unfortunately, though, Chandler has dynamite in his fist and really puts on the pressure. Before we even break this one down, man, just quickly, given Tony's recent skid and given that Chandler isn't that far removed from his own title fight, do you think this is the wisest matchup for Tony Ferguson, with all due respect? Do you think he should have eyed someone that would have sort of helped him rebuild himself a little bit? He's just been fighting killer after killer basically for years now.
You know, I don't think there are many really good options for Tony in the top 15. I think it gets to a point where you've got a bunch of killers that are trying to make their name off one of the big guys at the top. Mm-hmm. And Tony's still got that big fight name. You know, people still love Tony Ferguson and what he could potentially bring to the octagon. Michael Chandler's kind of the same. And if we get a performance from Chandler like we got in the Gaethje fight, that's a winnable one for Tony Ferguson. I mean, this is a superstars matchup, really. That's why we're excited about it, because we know who Chandler is from what he did when he was in Bellator, from how dangerous he is, left hand and right hand. I mean, if you think, you know, the right hand that he dropped Pitbull with and Sydney Outlaw, he dropped Ben Henderson with exactly the same punch from the opposite stance. So he's dangerous no matter what. And, of course, he's got wrestling to back it up with an oppressive ground and pound game and good back-taking arm triangle skills. Tony, it's just a question of what he's got left. Like, I think if he sticks to his fundamentals and he works his good basic boxing, I think he might be able to keep Chandler on the end of his punches and frustrate him. And there's always the threat of, if you do level change, then there are Darces and Anacondas and stuff waiting for you. The one other thing for Tony, of course, are his elbows. Like, that could be a really, really good asset for him in this one, especially if Chandler's deciding to fight face first like he did against Gaethje. I would hope he'd be a bit more calculated, and if he is, I think we're going to see his right hand land, and it might be the end of Tony Ferguson as a top 10 fighter. But I don't think this is an unwinnable fight for Tony in any way. I think there's a lot of different things that he could do, and if Chandler comes in fighting reckless and wanting to brawl, he's walking right into Tony Ferguson's game.
Well, I think, yeah, there's a couple of stories here. One is kind of Tony Ferguson's career, at least as a top contender. People are talking about how, you know, Michael Chandler could, you know, really end a lot of things for Tony Ferguson. Conversely, you've got Tony Ferguson, if he beats Chandler, all of a sudden, and maybe to be a bit premature, all of a sudden Tony Ferguson's being talked about as, hey, like, you know, he's a contender again, you know, he's not that far away from the title. But another story is also Chandler's adjustments, because we've seen him go to war the last couple of times and he's come up short against Oliveira and then recently Gaethje, albeit very, 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 you know, close. It's not like it was a landslide either way. But if you're Chandler, what's your game plan here this time? And what do you still have to watch out for against, like you mentioned, an always dangerous Tony Ferguson? I feel like it's crucial for Chandler here if he wants to stay a contender to get this win and not have the dreaded 3-fight losing streak.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's got to be a lot smarter, and he has the capability to do it. You know, of course, he's been in some absolute wars over the years, and you know, he's delivered the fans some really, really fun fights to watch. But he has a lot of things. He has a lot of advantages over Tony. You know, he is the shorter fighter. He's got shorter arms, but he covers distance at speed, and he's got really nice technical straight punching. And for as effective as Tony's striking can be, it's not the most polished. And he's not the most well considered as well. And he does tend to take unnecessary shots a lot of the time, just whether it's out of, recklessness or I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. Like, there's been a couple of fights when he's been taking shots. And I'm like against Gaethje, I wondered, to be honest, whether he was even conscious at one point in the fight, because he was just kind of walking onto stuff. Like, if he does that against Chandler, he won't be able to walk onto many, because Chandler will line him up for a kill shot. But then you see, you just don't know what to expect from Tony Ferguson. Like, he might hang back and force Chandler to come to him, and then that's going to be very difficult for Chandler not to go rushing onto an elbow. If Tony comes in really smart, then that's going to really it will really challenge Chandler. They are not easy words to say together. But you know, I think we need to see a smart athletic game plan from Chandler. You know, good footwork, springy in and out. maybe offering that lead leg and trying to get Tony to chop at it because of the Gaethje fight, and him maybe feeling confident in low kicks, and then he could blast him with that straight counter to the head as he's like going for the low kick. That's what I think I'd be doing if I was Chandler. And then worst case scenario, I'd be closing him down and trying to double leg him into the fence, because watching Tony's last couple of fights, if I'm Chandler with my skill set, I feel like I can ground and pound him and get a TKO finish.
Yeah, it's fascinating because when I look at Tony Ferguson, I keep forgetting this, but the guy's 38 years old, and to be 38 years old and still at the top of the lightweight division in the UFC is a very, very impressive thing. And the other thing that I keep thinking about is the fact that this is not a guy that's had good training camps leading into his last few fights. Oliveira, he's like, I just did some jiu-jitsu in the back. Like I didn't even do any proper BJJ leading into that one. Just in Gaethje, that was obviously through the coronavirus. So the training was, so I'm wondering and we also saw there was some issues with some guys in his corner and he let someone go, someone did something. So there's been some craziness around Tony Ferguson in that sense. So I wonder if he's got a good training camp. He goes into this one, a proper lead up, and we can see him do his thing. But nevertheless, so much respect for both guys. Just quickly, man, as we wrap this fight up, I know you mentioned that there is definitely a possibility that Tony Ferguson can win this one. Are you backing him in this one? Is he your official pick, or do you think Chandler gets it done?
No, I think Chandler gets it done. I think Chandler gets it done. But I do think it's a close fight, and I won't be counting Tony Ferguson out, not at all.
Nice. Well, speaking of close fights, you already know our good friends at Manscaped have saved you from fighting with your rusty razor with the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. We know you're slinging those big smooth balls all around town. And speaking of getting it done, they're helping you get other things done as well and revolutionizing your shower routine so you can smell the best and be the best version of yourself with their premium body wash products. You started off with the body wash to lather and cleanse your body. Then you kick it into high gear with the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, saving you time. No one has time for one or the other. Combine it with the shampoo and conditioner. Have your hair smelling absolutely fantastic, nice and clean, dandruff-free. And then afterwards, we all know that water obviously dehydrates you, especially if you're having a million showers. Maybe you work hard. Maybe you're in the gym training all the time. So you spray on the hydrating body spray to keep your skin nice and supple. Put on some fantastic deodorant from Manscaped. It smells absolutely amazing. My girlfriend loves it. And then don't have cracked chapped lips. Use the Manscaped lip balm. You get one packet and it comes with 3 lip balms. What more could you possibly want? Manscaped absolutely changing the game with not only the grooming products, but also their ultra premium shower collection products.
Yeah, man, that's right. And it's like one place for all your problems being solved. I know as a guy, like you have to go into your supermarket and be like, all right, but what do I do after this? What do I need to put on after that? These guys have you sorted, one-stop shop, and make sure to get your free shipping and 20% off by using the code word submission. By the way, the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, really good beard trimmer as well. So if you guys are looking to sort out a bunch of stuff, go to manscaped.com, get that code word submission, get 20% off and free shipping today. And Cass, with the big fights coming up this weekend, I know I can't wait. Dan is really getting me excited. You guys can make some serious money with our friends at MyBookie. Just quickly looking at the odds right now, Justin Gaethje at plus 140, Charles Oliveira minus 170, Carla Esparza plus 160, Rose Namajunas minus 195. What about Tony Ferguson plus 315, Michael Chandler minus 390? And how about this, guys? You guys could sign up with a code word submission and double your first deposit. Make some money at UFC 274 with our friends at MyBookie today, Cass. I can't wait to see who wins this weekend.
100%. Speaking of making some money, my new favorite thing is buying stuff online, changing my geolocation from Australia to somewhere else, and then I get it cheaper. And the best way to do that is with the premium VPN, NordVPN, which is the greatest VPN in the world. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yeah, man, it's the best. You have the best apps on there as well, whether it's your computer or your phone. It's so easy to use. And I have a great Nord story just real quick for you guys. As you guys know, the Boston Celtics are still in the playoffs. I really wanted the NBA League Pass, but when I looked at the price here in Australia, it was $40, even though it was still on the playoffs. So I quickly changed my location to Malaysia. And not only did I get the NBA League Pass, but I got the premium one with all the options for what? $16
Oh, wow.
16 Australian dollars. If you guys don't believe us, there is an example right now. NordVPN saves you money, gives you free threat protection, and plus a big discount, and plus an additional month for free if you guys go to nordvpn.com/submission or use the code word submission. And by the way, it's completely risk-free. We always have people saying, well, what if it's a little slow? What if we don't like it? 30-day money-back guarantee if you guys don't like it. Try it today and take our word for it. Nord is the place to be when it comes to your VPN.
Amazing. I didn't know that. So that's made my day. I'm on a little high right now from that story. All right. But getting back to the fights with you, Dan, obviously in the co-main event, you got Rose Namajunas looking to not only defend her title, but also avenge her loss to Carla Esparza from about 7 years ago as Carla rides a nice 5-fight win streak. Stylistically, I still think Carla, has the style to give Rose Namajunas problems. Whether she'll do it on the night is a separate story. But after 7 years worth of massive improvements, how much better equipped do you think Rose is in 2022 to handle this version of Carla, who also herself has made some nice improvements?
Yeah, I think to be honest, this is Rose's fight to lose. I think she's very, very different to the first time they fought, and she was having success in that first fight. She was aggressive, overly aggressive, which was the criticism. But she was coming in with multiple punch combinations, following up with high kicks. She was scrambling and defending some takedowns. She was able to clinch a few times and land some knees. So it wasn't like the first fight was a complete shutout. If they fought a handful of times, you could see Rose winning, a good majority of them. I just think she was a bit too reckless in that point in her career. She was throwing spinning back fists when she was tired and stuff and taking unnecessary risks that she wouldn't take now. I think this version of Rose is going to be really difficult for Carla Esparza to get to because she's got good footwork. She's going to be moving laterally constantly and feinting, and we know how slick her striking is now, especially with what she did to Zhang Weili. I think her takedown offense has improved. Of course, she's got submission finishes as well, rear naked chokes in particular. But as you said, Carla's improved as well. What she did to Zhang Xiaonan, being able to take her down and pin her into a crucifix position, and that cut that she opened up on her head. But for me, the swing conversation in this one is the confidence of the fighters, because I think both of them are a little bit on a knife edge when it comes to, I feel like I'm doing really well, I feel like this is going terribly. And when you watch Carla fight Joanna, we saw her confidence break because she couldn't take her down, and because Joanna was dropping those really nasty elbows onto her and making it unpleasant. I think if Rose is able to do that and be patient and not be too eager to try and get the finish, then she can break Carla's confidence. But then, if Carla is able to catch a kick or power double away to top position, and she's able to open Rose up, I think it could go the opposite way. Rose going back to her corner at the end of the first round with a cut like Yan Xiaonan did. I don't know where her confidence would be. I don't know whether she'd start to second guess herself, and in that case, it would start to spiral the opposite way. Their psychology is really the question for me in this fight. I think Rose is the better fighter, and I think she's got better options as far as finishing the fight. But it could quite easily come unraveling, with one good elbow.
Yeah, and it's just crazy as well because, like Asper said, the stories there, these guys have fought previously, and I think for Carla as well, if she was able to reclaim the title after this long period of time, that really sets a historic moment for her and an unbelievable story that you could, throw on Netflix tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens there. But having beaten Joanna, Andrade, Weili, and now possibly Carla, how soon do you think before Rose gets called the greatest women's strawweight of all time?
I think she's pretty close. I think she's been fortunate to have such good opposition as well. You look at the fighters that she's had, the opponents that she's had. They've all improved from the first fight to the next. Joanna was a harder fight second time around. Zhang Weili was certainly a harder fight the second time around. I think she's made the whole division better, which is really a credit to her and her presence. Especially because, she's not got the same kind of experience that a lot of her opponents have got. 15, 16 fights into her career? I think I was defending my belt on Cage Warriors at that point. She's done a lot for a short period of time. but the fighters are around it. You know, the Zhang Wei Li's and the Joannas, and you know, potentially Carla Esparza as well. They're all very competitive, and we're in a good position right now with the strawweight division. I think Rose is the better of all of them, but it's marginal, and there's a potential for it to be, you know, for the belts to be moving hands again.
100%. For the sake of time, we won't go through all of them, but there is a bunch of other fun fights at UFC 274, an absolutely stacked card. Follow the man on Twitter and Instagram at Dan Hardy MMA, of course. Subscribe to Full Reptile if you haven't already. If you haven't, what are you doing with yourself? Of course, the Dan Hardy Breakdown Show on BT Sport. Always fantastic work there. And then finally, man, Diego Sanchez. July 2nd, it's going to be the third in Australia, New Zealand. You can watch it on hattonbarrera.com. We look forward, Dan, to speaking hopefully in about a month or so or closer to the fight and really deep diving it. But as always, man, thank you so much for your time. Always love chatting with you.
Thank you, guys. Always good talking to you as well.